Greetings, welcome to ChaoticBeagle Entertainment. Thank you all for joining us today. This series, I'm not dropping all my notes. This little series, we are going through our journey and feelings and thoughts on the whole IUI and IVF process. Ours took a little bit of time, but as some have been able to see, we have been successful, and we're kind of just going through and just kind of detailing out some of the stuff that we went through, some of the things that we experienced, some of the fixes and changes and things that we had to go through, and just how we feel on most of the process and what we went through. So last video we went through the IUI attempts that we had made and the retrieval process. Today's video we are going through the actual transfer of the viable eggs that we had. We had 7 viable eggs, and this was the 3 transfers that we went through, and on the third one we had our successful little baby girl. So did you have anything you want to start off with? Yeah, we'll just go down the list here. So the first transfer that we had done, we had tried to transfer in. We did a boy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. November. Yeah. It was
we did a frozen embryo transfer, the FET.
Yes, and we tried a boy embryo first. Mm-hmm. That was in November.
Yeah, I cut my finger.
Yes. So during that process, she was taking a number of medications that she has to take in order to promote the embryo once it's been transferred in, promote the embryo adhering to the uterus walls and basically growing from there. I did, for most of that process, all 3 transfers, I had to go and help her with administering the medications. That was the roughest part, I feel, of the whole transfer process.
So we take 3, there's a couple meds. You take, I took a baby aspirin every morning, estrogen 3 times a day, and then when it comes to the transfer part, it's supposed to kind of mimic your normal cycle. So after a couple of different ultrasounds and whatnot, then they start you on the progesterone in oil injections. We call it, it's sometimes abbreviated with PIO, P-I-O. And it's what it sounds like. It's progesterone in oil, and it's about, you think you get like 1 ml, but the needle is like 2 inches long.
It's massive. She was working, she's working a shift where you were working the morning shifts for those.
Then I was still on nights.
Was that on nights?
Still on nights for the first transfer.
Oh, the first one. It was the second and third one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I had to give her those injections, and I hated giving those injections. I felt bad just because the needle is so long and it had to go. So she usually did the prep of, she had some ice packs and some numbing gel that she would put on the area where, I was going to give the injection.
They go in your butt cheek.
Yes, in the booty cheeks. And that was not fun. Not only is that needle long, but it's actually a sizable gauge. So you've got to actually give it some pressure to get it to basically pop through the skin. I hated doing it every time. I felt bad, but like the amount of pressure, and sometimes the area was not numbed. Like sometimes she did a great job numbing the areas, and sometimes, if she was in a rush or anything, not so well numbed. So I knew it had to be painful to get that bit of an injection.
It was.
And I felt bad every time just because of, we needed to do these injections and these meds to get this to take. But given that injection, it just felt rough. Just me having to give so much pressure to get it in, and then, using the full length of the needle and then doing the injection. And I know that it's hitting deep tissue, and doing those injections, like she's wincing sometimes while it's numb, she could still feel like the pressure. And I was like, I felt bad.
It just numbs the skin, but it doesn't really numb the tissue. And it's kind of a thick medicine, so it feels like there's like a ball under your skin, and it knots up.
Yeah, those were pretty rough. Even just for me giving them, I felt bad for her having to go through all that. She was a trooper. She did a great job, toughing it out, but those could not, just pain-wise and reaction-wise, could not be fun. But she, during the first transfer, she was working nights, and then during the second two, she was working day, early morning shifts. The second one, again, did not take. The third one did. And basically, I was working, she was working, and during that process, basically, she would wake me up earlier around, I think like 5:45 is when you woke me up. So 5:45, she would wake me up, like, hey, here's, she had the injections warmed up, she had those ready to go, I would give those.
I would draw it up. I would come out to the couch, sit on an ice pack, put no medicine on, sit on an ice pack, draw the medicine up, and I would put it in my armpit. And then I would put a heating pad for the other butt cheek, because that one was usually still sore. And that way, the other butt cheek had a heating pad on it. The butt cheek was ready to get injected would have the ice pack and then the medicine on it, and the medicine would be in my armpit.
And most times when I'm trying to give these injections, I think there was 3 per butt cheek spots that we had to pick from. It was like bottom corner.
Oh yeah, the sites.
Yeah, the sites. Yeah. My hope was that the sites would be healed up for the most part before we went through the full rotation to give the next injection. It was not at times, so it'd be sore, painful areas that she's getting the next injection through, or we would forget where the last one was at because she's taking baby aspirin, so she bleeds easily. And we'll go through a quick story on that. But she bleeds easily, so every morning I'd have to give the injection and just immediately throw a Band-Aid on there to stop the bleeding. But sometimes we would forget where the last one was because the Band-Aid came off or something.
And everything is sore, so you can't even remember where you got the last shot because both butt cheeks hurt.
Yeah, it's painful. It's bad. Yes, so that was not fun. So yeah, during the first transfer, she happened to be prepping some lunch because it was afternoon and mid-afternoon.
To make apple slices.
Yeah, she wanted some apple slices, so she's prepping them on the very sharp mandolin, and she's slicing them across. And I'm sitting here in the spare room at my desk online with the new team that they had put me on at my company, and she ends up cutting off a chunk of one of her fingers, her pinky finger. Slices a whole chunk of meat off. And it starts bleeding pretty profusely. And again, she's on the baby aspirin, so, blood is thinned. So it bleeds easier, clots less, with all the medications and everything. So she's sitting there, she's trying to, get it to stop bleeding, and it will not stop bleeding.
When I ran it under the water to see where the blood was coming from, because it was just everywhere, because it's this whole sliver of skin that's gone, I was like, I'm never going to be able to stop this on my own. It's just not going to happen. So I just kind of wrapped it up as best I could, and then I was going to go to the emergency room.
Yeah, she's like, I'm going to go to the emergency room. It's like, I'm going to drive. And so I just hit my boss with a quick message like, hey, got an emergency, I'm going. So we drove up there, and it took them a while we went to the ER. It took them a while to get, not too long. Took us a little bit of time to get back there once we got back into a room.
Sidebar. Emergency rooms are for emergencies. Cutting my finger, while it was an emergency, it wasn't a life or death emergency. So that's why it took a while.
Yeah.
So the emergency room was great. I love that emergency room. I would go back 20 times, but I do realize that me cutting my finger and bleeding is not a life or death situation. So I will gladly wait for the people who are actually going to die to go back first. I'm not. I bought plenty of things to do. I had Netflix on my phone. We were fine.
Yeah. And I was rushed to get her bag, being that, we were doing a transfer. I was kind of you know, like, hey, we'd like to get back there sooner rather than later. Not only that, but, you know, I've got to get back to work as well. But it wasn't like they took too long or anything. It honestly didn't take maybe, 30, 45 minutes?
I feel like I went back pretty quick. Like, I was friends with the one nurse, and I was talking to her for a while, and I feel like while I was talking to her, they immediately took me back. So
yeah, I think it was probably around 30 minutes that we sat, and then they finally got us back. Doctor came through, looked at it.
Someone else than I know.
Yeah. And I think they had talked about cauterizing it, but they were able...
And I said no.
Yeah, they were going to cauterize it, but that was going to be
last...
last...
What do you think? And I said, let's not cauterize
it. Let's leave that as the last option. I think they ended up just putting some adhesive or something on it.
Surgicel.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's still made of this, but they used to have a patch that's made from like seaweed or something, but it promotes clotting. So they put it on the raw skin, and it kind of swells as the blood hits it, and it has like it's mesh, so it kind of looks like your clotting factors do with the mesh. I don't know how in depth to get in. Anyway, it's mesh and it promotes clotting.
Yeah. So they slapped some of that on there,
my X-ray, and
then wrapped it up and everything, and then
I watched Netflix.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Doctor came in; she knew the doc. I think a couple of people back there kind of laughed, like, "Really, gonna come in on your day off?"
The charge. You want to work? Nah, man.
Yeah, no. But they were able to get that taken care of, and then as we're about to check out to leave, the funniest part is we can't leave because a patient has now come into the ER from just down the street. I think it was down by, by the school or Qdoba or something like that?
They were coming from the school.
Yeah, it was coming from the school where a patient had been shot. So they came into the ER, and what they had to do is they had to lock down the ER for safety protocols to ensure that whoever it is that may have shot this, victim doesn't come back to finish the job. So we had to sit there for another 2.5 hours.
Yeah. So what that means is no one in or out unless, if you're already in the ER, yes, you're in, but we can't discharge anybody, and we also really can't admit someone in. Like, if you're in the waiting room, we can bring you back, but we can't really
allow you into the building.
Yeah. And your family can't come back because we don't know who shot this kid, and we need to make sure this kid is stable, and no one's going to come back and check and see if the job is done. And we can also get this kid out to where they ever need to be, because Audubon's a great hospital. Are we saying the name?
They wouldn't know.
Okay. It's a great hospital, but it's not a level 1 trauma, and we need to get this kid out to level 1 trauma.
Yeah. So we ended up sitting for another couple hours. I'll let my boss know.
Netflix for the win.
Yeah, we just sat and watched Netflix, and
then I got hungry.
YouTube, and we got a little snacky, so we hit the vending machine, just grabbed some little bags of chips and drinks. I luckily had a couple of bucks on me, so we just went with that. But not bad. That's our little, our little disaster of the first transfer. And then we came home, and it was funny because both of us were kind of like, let's see what this little chunk of meat that you sliced off looks like. We put it in a Ziploc bag. We're over inspecting it. And
it was a good size.
You could see it wasn't just like, skin. It had some little vessel chunks in there, and it was kind of wild. Yeah. It was kind of wild. So that took place during the first transfer. Second transfer was...
That one did not take, in case that's not obvious.
Yes, that one did not take. Second transfer was a lot of the same, all the same injections.
Minus the finger cutting.
Yeah. The meds. So, the huge number of meds that we had got in, we had shown pictures in the last video of the giant bag of meds that came through. We had to get another set of them for the second transfer, and then had to grab another set for the third transfer. We were able to take care of those out of pocket, and it wasn't, some of them were taken care of, whatever wasn't taken care of we took care of out of pocket. So we had to go and just get re-up on some of those. We had some leftovers, but we re-up what we could. And then so on the third transfer,
second transfer did take. We miscarried that one.
Yes, yeah, that one. It was, I think we waited the 9 days. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we waited the 9 days. Checked that one, and it more or less did take, but
the night before we were supposed to. So you have your transfer, then you have 9 days that you wait before you can test positive, because it's based off of your cycle. So ideally, the embryo implants on day 5 or 6, and then it's 2 weeks after ovulation that you can test positive for pregnancy in a normal, natural, unassisted cycle. So day 5 is when they're ideally going to you're on medicine for 5 days, and you do the transfer, then you have like 9 more days to get to the full 14 days to test.
Yeah, so part of that is waiting the 9 days from the date of transfer is because the embryos have waited the 5 days worth of growth from the retrieval.
Yeah.
So
and
maybe
it takes them about 5 days to get from where they're fertilized to your uterus normally. So that's why the days are like that.
Yes. So for anybody that had that kind of question, why the 9 days? It's because the embryo is basically sitting at a frozen 5 days in. And then it transfers into the uterus, and then we wait the 9, so it's a 2-week full period. So, or full time span.
And I think I tested the day before we went in for blood work because I wanted to know what I was walking into.
Yeah, you tested, and we got a partial, but it didn't.
Just light, just a light positive, and then
So it did not take on the second round. Third round is a whole nother ordeal. So we did boy, and then a girl, and then a girl. So on the third transfer, we had gone in, we got the transfer done. Usually you're supposed to wait at least 5 days before you are able to do a home pregnancy test to actually see whether or not you might get a positive.
Right, so 5 days would be like 10 DPO or 10 days post-ovulation. If you're here because you've been looking at like pregnancy stuff, it would be equivalent to 10 DPO.
Yeah, because 5 days on the embryo and then 5 days after it was transferred into the uterus. So happened to be that she wanted an energy drink, and I was like, I mean, if you're pregnant, you can't have one. So, go ahead and check to see.
Also, it was way too early. Like, I feel like it was not 5 days. It was
4. It was like 4 days.
This transfer was the weirdest transfer of any of the ones we did. I had the most side effects from the medicines. I never had meds.
You had a lot of cramping.
Yes. So we transferred on a Wednesday, and you kind of lay low on Wednesday. I'm back to work on Thursday, I think.
Yeah.
Friday I was at work. Saturday I'm in the kitchen baking, and I felt like my period was coming. Like, I felt very crampy and irritable. I think I kept like snapping at you.
Yeah, she had a rough weekend.
I didn't feel good. Like, it felt like your period's coming any day. So I was just crampy, and honestly, I cramped enough that I actually went and checked and was like, maybe I should put a pad on because this clearly didn't take. I'm clearly going to have my period any day.
She was fully convinced at that point.
Like, I didn't have any hope for this transfer cycle at all anyway, and so the cramping it felt like it's like any minute now. So I think I cramped all weekend, and then Monday I went to work and I was really tired, but I work at 6:30 in the morning, so I was going to go for a walk. I think you were already out at the park, and so I thought, I want an energy drink, and he's like, you should probably take a test and make sure. And I'm pretty sure I something with some 4-letter words like, why am I taking a test? This isn't going to be fun. And
she was feisty. She was very feisty.
And so I took the test, but I glanced at it, but I didn't mark on my watch when I took it, so I didn't know when the time was going to be up. So I glanced at it and thought maybe possibly a line, but I may have line eyes, but I also didn't really have hope in this transfer cycle at all, and so I just left it in the back of the toilet and was like, I'll have him check it later.
Yeah. So I get home from running at the park with my buddy Ernest. I get home, and she had left me a message to check it, and I was like, okay, I'll check it. And I go to the back of the toilet to see where it's at, and I look at it, and I'm like, that's super pregnant. Like, it's at the 4-day mark. I think it was Sunday.
It was Monday that I checked.
Was it Monday you checked?
Because I had gone to work that day, and you were at the park.
Oh, yeah. So Monday she checked, and that was at the 4-day mark, and yeah, like, it was super, super pregnant. I could tell just looking at it. Like, she was like, it's kind of faint. I was like, I looked at it and I was like, oh no, that is bright. That is bright and dead on. So basically I told her, no energy drinks for your pregnant behind.
I still didn't believe it.
Yeah, she was fully convinced that she was like, this one didn't take.
The last cycle we had a miscarriage, and so I was assuming that this was going to probably end the same way, so I still didn't really.
Yeah. But yeah, so no, during that time period, we went full on making sure we stuck to, it was the progesterone, oils, steroids, antibiotics,
suppositories.
Vaginals,
progesterone, suppositories twice a day.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot to keep up with. I did my best to try and keep up with it and remind her and everything else, but it was a lot. All those meds and having to stick her so many times with that progesterone oil needle, and it was, her butt was so sore because we had done it for 2 other transfers already, and it wasn't like she really had much recovery time before we started another round of it. So yeah,
we carried in March and then we started again May.
Yeah, because they had to wait for a period, and then after the period,
you did one cycle, one normal menstrual cycle, and then went back into it.
Yep. So yeah, no, we got the 5 days in.
I just kept taking tests like every couple days until we went in for the blood work, but I still was expecting every time I take a test for it to come up negative again.
Yeah. And me the whole time, I'm just like, man, this is, I'm kind of feeling like this one has taken. I know she's got the bulk of, what it feels and what she's, you
feel very PMS-y.
Yeah. Any changes, adjustments, hot flashes, cold flashes, like she's got all that in. And me, I kind of feel like stuck and helpless on the other side. But I just had good feelings on this one. I had very, very different feelings on this one than I did the 2 previous. Even the second one, like I got excited, but it still just, I don't know, it didn't feel like it grabbed me as far as what you were going through and what we were doing and everything.
I was a lot more excited for the second one because I felt like I had more like symptoms.
Yes. During the second transfer, she had a lot more of the natural symptoms that you will hear a lot of people say that they have.
Yeah, like I had this heightened sense of smell. I had all of those things. Yeah. And I was not nearly as crampy.
Oh, and then the aversions.
Yeah, I had the meat aversion.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, she had a huge meat aversion. Like, anytime I cooked meat, she would come in, smell it, and be like, oh, nope. I'm just like, oh, what? And it was any meat. Chicken, turkey, steak, burgers, bologna, ham, any meat. She just was not, she couldn't hold, she didn't like vomit or have morning sickness or anything, but she just like felt upchucky. I don't know if that's felt upchucky. But that was the bulk of it for that one. During the third one, she wasn't having a lot of that at all.
Just irritable and crampy and tired.
Yeah.
So it felt, and part of it, you don't know if that's like pregnancy or if it's what else, because pregnancy symptoms are caused by the hormones, and I'm getting hormones. Yes. So you can't tell, like, your breasts hurt, but they're going to hurt anyway because you're getting all these hormones. So I don't know. I feel like I just did not have high hopes because I just felt like a period. I just was crampy, and I felt like I kept yelling at him for no reason, and I have to apologize later. Then I would feel bad for yelling at him, but then I'd be mad again that he like breathed too loud or something.
And I didn't let it faze me, but it was just kind of like, okay. So I tried to do everything I could to prevent anything from irritating her. But yeah, I mean, it was just one thing after another.
There's nothing he could have done. Let's just be realistic. I feel like I apologize as much as I yelled. Like I would yell and then I would just be like, I'm really sorry. I don't know what's wrong with me. Yeah.
And sometimes I'd just be like, oh, hold on. Let me know what you need. What's going on? She's like, I don't know what I need. I really don't. And
sorry.
It was fun. It was funny.
I'm not.
It's part of the experience.
I don't think get that cranky. Like I feel like I'm normally pretty even keeled. And I felt like a psycho. Like I felt like I kept yelling, and just even at work, like things would happen, I'd be like,
yeah. And she is one that her face cannot lie sometimes. So you can tell what she's thinking and how she's feeling on her face and her facial expressions. So it's easy to pick up sometimes, and it's just like, oh, something's wrong. Something's not. She's not happy about something. But yeah, so we were going through all those. The saline ultrasound to map out the uterus was no fun.
No, they hurt.
Yeah.
I never had to have the is it histogram where they put the dye in, let's see if your tubes are up. I never had to have that. I've heard that's painful. But the saline ultrasound, they say, gives you mild cramping, and I feel like now looking back, I have a pretty decent pain tolerance, but I was gripping the thing. I think you were there with me for the second one.
Yes. These
COVID protocols were lifted by then.
Yes, the COVID protocols were lifted, so I could actually go back and be with her for these.
Yeah, and I think I was just like gripping the table with my eyes closed and trying to just breathe through it. Yeah.
And it was kind of wild because the syringe that they bring in when they do these transfers is just massive. It's like it's like 2.5 foot, 3 foot long. And I'm just like, where is that going? I was like, good grief, like. Because when they do the saline ultrasounds before any of the transfers to map, basically where they're going to drop them.
So out of order.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I've got, my notes are kind of jumbled up there.
Fine. Just say
we kind of jumped into the later parts, but like to map that out where they're going to drop the egg off, and then they come out and they're like, yeah, we found it. It's here. Da da da. I'm like, where? That thing is massive, and embryos are tiny.
You want to talk about transfer day?
Yeah, we can do that.
Rewind. When you edit, you can just put this first.
Oh yeah, I mean it's fine. But yeah, I
had to drink 32 ounces of water before we got there because you have to have a full bladder.
Oh, I forgot about that.
I did not.
Yeah.
You have to have a full bladder so that just in the anatomy, your bladder sits here and your uterus is kind of on top. So in order for them to see it in the ultrasound, you have a full bladder so you can pop that uterus up so they don't have to do an internal, they can do an external ultrasound. So my bladder was overly full. They'll be pee a little bit. You can pee a little bit. And then you come in, you get in a gown. He gets to come, I think you had to wear a bunny suit or something, didn't you? Or a gown.
I just had to wear the gown, yeah.
And then you go in. This whole process, there's no modesty, so I never have on panties. Take off your panties, take off your pants. You're just wearing my IVF socks and a gown, and you hop up on the table and you wait for them to come in, and you put your legs in stirrups. The nurse comes in, ultrasounds you. Doctor comes in, he ultrasounds you. The embryologist comes in, or there's a doctor embryologist. But they're both in and out, and they make sure that you have a picture of it. I think they took your phone to get a picture of the...
Yes, yeah, they allowed me to take a picture of the embryo before they transferred that in.
Yeah, you confirm all your stuff.
So basically, baby's first picture.
Yeah, I would love to do... Never mind, sorry. Not even related. They make sure you're who you say you are. This looks like your name, this is your birthday. It's a lot of like safety checks before anything ever happens. And then they finally come in, they spray that numbing stuff on there. George gets to hang out next to me this time. So I'm not by myself, and the nurse is there, and I'm there, legs and just everything's wide open. And they put the speculum in. You can feel the spray, but you don't feel anything else, which is nice because anything else that they've bothered your cervix kind of makes you cramp. So it's nice that they numb everything because then you don't feel it as much. And then all right, you ready? Here we go. And then they inject it, I guess.
Yeah.
And you're watching it on the screen to see, and it's just like a little bright spot.
Yeah, it's just like you just see like a little speck, and they have the spot that they have picked. Because one of the earlier ultrasounds they do is to also check the thickness of the linings. Mm-hmm. And then they do all these different ultrasounds to check the thickness, check the mapping, check the fluids, check all these different things. And then they pick a spot, and you just see the little syringe come up. And he's like, oh, injecting now. And you just see it come launching out and get slapped up against the side of the uterus, and it's kind of wild to watch. It's very wild.
It feels like nothing.
Yeah. I mean, at that such a small scale.
Yeah. You cramp kind of off and on the rest of the day because they've bothered your cervix and everything. They do that. You cramp, but other than that,
yeah,
it's not even bad cramping. Like you take it easy that day, which is hard because you don't really feel that different.
Yeah.
And then fast forward, and I had cramping kind of off and on from that point on.
Yeah. And then we waited a few days, did the check, and it came up.
Kept checking every couple days until I went in for my blood work.
Yeah.
And blood work is on the morning of the 9th day.
Yeah.
And I still did not have that high hopes.
Yep, but it worked out.
I had good numbers.
Yeah. Let's see. For that one, the lining was good. Started the progesterone. The third transfer was actually on June 7th. Mm-hmm. And that's when we went in and they transferred the third embryo.
It was Wednesday.
Yeah. It was a good Wednesday. And then we had to keep with the progesterone injections and everything else for the next 10 weeks.
So you stay on those medicines until you get your pregnancy test back. Anything over 50 is positive. I was pretty positive. So then they have you come back in 2 more days, but until you come back in, you continue the meds. And your numbers are supposed to double every couple days. Your HCG is what we're measuring. So, and it did.
Yeah, so the normal score that you got to have is from 50.
Above 50.
Yeah, anything above 50. I'm trying to remember. It was like she checked with the doc, because we went in, they did the check. And then they came back with the results. And
they call you at home, so you get to go home and stress about it.
Yeah. She was very stressing about it. But it was funny because when they came back with the scores on this one, so the previous ones, the first transfer and the second transfer still came back with scores above 50, but every 2 days they're supposed to double. The first 2 did not. Well, the second one, it doubled once, but the second one, it did not double all the way. So
I had very low numbers for the one that we miscarried.
Yeah. But this one, the third one, it was hilarious because the first result has to be above 50. And I think, what was it? It was like
120. So did you write it down? It was 120 something.
Did I write it down? Thought I wrote it down.
I thought you did too. It's in the 120s.
Yeah, it was like 120 something. Yeah, it was 126 or 128.
I just know it was in the 120s.
Yeah, it was like 126, 128 for the very first reading.
They called me at work. So I got my labs drawn and I went to work. And they called me literally at work. And I was in a procedure. I came out of the procedure to answer the phone call. And she was like, is this your first draw? Because you're pretty positive. And so I think I called you at home to tell you.
Yeah. I thought I wrote it down, but no, I think we just looked at the actual. She pulled them up on her phone. So the first one came back at like 128, 120 something. So the next one we did 2 days later, and when they checked the second one, it's supposed to double from there. So instead of 128, it's supposed to be like 2. We'll say.
I think we were hoping for 400 because it doubles like every couple days, and it was over a weekend, so I didn't get another redraw until that Monday.
Yeah, ours came back so well on the first one. I was like, watch, it's gonna be like 300. I was hyped. I was like, yeah, watch, it's gonna be like 300. Like 400. She got the score back, and she told me, and I was like,
it's 1,000.
Say what? Hang on. It was like 1,056.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, 1,056? Really?
I still did not think that this was going to be a thing. I still felt, you still feel crampy, like your period is coming.
Yeah, but I pretty much from that point, I was just like, oh, we did it. We got this. And then
you're just going like every couple days for more lab work, just to make sure.
Yep. And then
she doubled and tripled appropriately.
Yeah, she increased exponentially. So basically, from that one, 1,056 or 4,048.
The next week. The next week we went in.
Yes.
They let us wait a whole week.
Yeah, we had to wait just because of the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to wait, and when we, because we waited, I'm expecting I was like, watch, it's gonna be like 2,500, something cool. We're doing real good on our numbers. It's above and beyond. So the third check came through, and I think you were on the phone with me. And she told me over the phone. I was like, yeah, go ahead, tell me over the phone. And she said it, and I was like, say that again? Was that English? Was that?
I think we got up to like 16,000.
Yeah, the third test, I'm thinking like 2,000, 2,500. It was 16,000 was the, what was the HCG? Yeah, the HCG. Which is basically the number that, the reading scale that tells you.
That's what you're checking for when you pee on a stick, is HCG.
Yeah, that's what you're reading to determine if your body is generating the hormones that it would generate if it was pregnant. And that's what, you pee on the stick, it reads, it looks for that, that hormone there.
So then you just stay on the shots until your 6-week check.
Yep. So, yeah, once it hit 16,000, even the doctor's office, even the...
She just scheduled an ultrasound. She didn't order any more blood.
Yeah, they didn't request any more blood tests. They just said, nope, you're good. With that kind of score, there's no way that you're not dead on pregnant. So
I don't think we were really telling people yet still.
Not until we got that first full-on ultrasound.
Because I still did not believe this was going to be a viable pregnancy.
Yeah. Me, I was hyped. I was like, we got it. We did this. We got it. We did it. She was still skeptical, though.
Yeah, and I still was just tired. I still had no...
Yeah, she was not having, any kind of major, no morning sickness, no major issues other than just, mild headache, cramping, and then...
Irritable.
Yeah, a little irritable. A little bit of heat flashes once in a while. You would get a little warm every once in a while. Other than that, she did not have any major body changes that would denote, that would make one, if we weren't specifically looking to get pregnant, she had no really key factors telling her, hey, something has changed, something's not right.
Yeah.
So we, it was skeptical, but at the same time, it was understandable because she didn't have any of those key factors that we had during previous transfers. Me, I was just full on boom, we got it done. Whether she was feeling any kind of symptoms or any kind of side effects or anything, I was like, it doesn't matter. We got it. We nailed it. So.
Yep. Still got my shots every morning.
Yep. We had to keep on with those. Keep on with that, me basically having to stab her in the behind cheek, every morning. And it's...
I think I bled more.
Yeah, you had a few.
While.
There were a couple of times that I gave her some of those injections, and I would have to get 2 Band-Aids to cover it up, or put a cotton ball or something on it. Because some of them were rough. Some of them were just, they would not, I would have to basically take the Band-Aid and kind of cup it below just so it would get the stream of blood coming out, and then, then adhere it on. Some of them were bad. Some of them were rough. But at that point, we were kind of excited. I was hyped. She was still skeptical, but after, so many weeks.
We had ultrasound at 6 weeks, ultrasound at 8 weeks.
Yep. So with those, it let us know, hey, she's in there. She's growing.
And at 8 weeks, you get to graduate.
Yeah. Oh, another funny thing. We actually, during, I think, the third transfer, we actually had to wait an extra day.
Because we don't follow directions, because I did not think it was going to work. So I did not think I needed to follow directions.
Yeah, so we kind of bypassed and said, we'll probably be fine to, have some relations or whatever. It did, yeah. Now, there ended up, they had...
So, actually, sidebar, I don't know if this is even common knowledge. I feel like it's not. During the IVF cycle, so many times you are no longer allowed to do what married people do. I'm trying to get you not flagged.
Yes.
Here.
Yes.
So you're not
no
allowed.
relations.
Yeah, you're not allowed. So during egg retrieval, not allowed, not happening. And you have to actually be okayed. So you cannot do it the whole time you're doing the egg retrieval for a while after, because of the egg retrieval. And then after, when you're doing a transfer, once you start the transfer process, after one of the ultrasounds, the saline ultrasound, you cannot do it again until after this whole process is done. So there's a lot of times where you got to get creative.
You have to abstain.
Yeah, the creativity is your friend, I guess. I don't know. You're not allowed to do anything. So while we were getting ready for this transfer, every other one I followed every direction to the T. But I felt like this wasn't going to work anyway, and I was just kind of over my life being run, I guess. So I was like, we're just going to do what we're going to do, and
whatever happens, happens.
Whatever.
And that unfortunately caused an issue with
so our transfer
the
was
ultrasound.
Delayed.
Because when they did the ultrasound, they found extra fluids. And we were kind of like, oh, where did those come from?
She's like, it can happen sometimes with hormones. And I was like, that must be it.
Yes. That's what happened. Yes.
So our transfer actually was delayed. So funny story, I had planned my off day to be the day of our transfer, which ended up being delayed 2 days. And so as a lot of like scrambling and trying to trade shifts to be off on that day.
Yes. So
make sure you follow directions.
Funny add-on. Yes, follow directions. Listen to what they tell you. But yes, that ended up working out.
Sometime also between 6 and 8 weeks, I started not to feel good.
Yeah, she started. So once this transfer was successful, she started to have some changes that were starting to take place. Like sense of smell was increasing.
I have no sense of smell in my normal life.
Yeah, I mean, short of it being something super strong and pungent, she usually just can't. If it's something subtle, can't pick it up.
I smell things at work. Like I can smell. Sounds gross. I can smell illnesses and symptoms at work, and like in the hospital. But for the most part, I can't. I feel like, do you smell that? No.
Yeah. And even at home, I'll walk in the front door and I'm like, oh, something in the trash needs to go. That's bad.
Unless I'm in the kitchen, don't smell it.
Yeah, she won't pick it up at all, and I'll come in the front door, which is at least a good 30 feet away from where the trash can is sitting, and I'll just pick it up right away, and I'm like, oh, yeah, no, something's got to go. And it might be, a container of meat that I threw out after cooking chicken or whatever, the packaging, or it could be any number of different things, and I'll pick it up, and I'm like, oh, yeah, let me run this out. Let's get rid of this. But yeah, so, I mean, I
don't know where my smell picked up, but I know that because I had a graduation party. I graduated around this time, and I had a graduation party, and I wasn't telling people. And I remember I felt pretty good that day, but as we were at the party, I was not really feeling great, and I faked it really well because no one picked up on it. But I made my plate and then looked at it and realized I wasn't gonna be able to eat it without gagging, and so I kept passing my food off to him.
I was eating good. I was like, hey.
He's like, I'm gonna get dessert, and I was like, don't get dessert, just eat my dessert.
Yeah. Lo and behold,
I had a hard time, but I think we hit it well because other than the people who needed to know, no one else picked up on the fact that I was not.
We kept it pretty well until we got that official, what was it, 6-week ultrasound? Or was it the 8?
We told our family on the 6th week.
Yes, and then we waited till the 8 to tell everybody else.
Important people.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't think we told everybody until after the first trimester.
Yeah. We waited a little while. But, no. I mean, it worked out. I got excited when we started hearing them numbers. Honestly, once I saw the home pregnancy test that she had taken while, she was on that walk. Once I saw that, and that was only after 4 days time, when you really shouldn't be able to read anything until the 5-day mark, I knew it was, in my mind, I knew it was taken on. It was taken over. It was taken on. That the transfer took, she's latched on, she's growing, like it's happening. That's kind of where I fully I kind of just, set my brain to, okay, this kid's coming now. It's just a matter of time at this point. So,
I did not.
Yeah, that was how I felt. I felt very positive about it, very straight on about it. So yeah, it worked out.
Were you excited?
Very excited. I felt if I was in a better shape, I would just go in the front yard, just do a couple of backflips and run down the street. That's how I felt like. I was like, man. But no, I was very hyped, very excited, very happy,
It's good because I feel like I still didn't.
Yeah, I would have liked to have the boy first, but I am, with how gorgeous this little girl is, I am more than ecstatic about how everything ran out and how the course of everything went. Just knowing that, we got it to take this time. The first two, the first one, just didn't take it all. There was no progression, no advancement on it.
That line stayed the same.
Yeah. The second one was a partial take. The numbers just did not increase as well as it should have, because I think the first one was like a 60, and then the second one was only like
100.
Yeah, it was like 100, like 108. It was just barely under being double. So I had my hopes up that it would take. It did not. The second one, most definitely, from the numbers and stats and all the scans and the blood work and everything, just did not. But the third one here, when it went from 140 something to 1,000 something to 16,000, I was like, oh yeah, it's a done deal. Like, it's in there. And even when she did some of the earlier pregnancy tests during the first transfer, you did, 3 tests. 2 of them were electronic, and then the third one was the EPT or something like that.
Early at home.
Yeah. Even those, one came back with a very faint line, and then the other 2 came back with nothing. So I was like, there's no way to tell, or, I kind of didn't want to say that it was a failure right off the bat, because it's not really, I've been wanting to have a kid for a long while.
Heartbreaking.
I didn't want it to be a failure after all we had done and all we had been through and all we had tried, and I'm taking like different medicines to increase, my stats, get my stuff up there. She's on these different medications that I've got to go and jab her in the behind with these syringes, just numerous times, and then she's got all these other meds that she's got to take. With all of that, and then she was taking prenatals. You were also taking like magnesium and zinc. Not only is she doing the injections, but she's taking supplements, vitamins, pills, a lot of different stuff she had to take. And I didn't want to see it be a failure. But the first 2 were. The second one, the fact that the first one was such a failure and the second one was kind of a success, but just didn't progress as far as it should have.
The second one broke me. That was horrible.
Yeah. And then the third one, I had the feeling that basically it was the first transfer was her body just getting the idea of what we're trying to do. And then the second one, her body had the idea what we were trying to do, and it was like, oh, you mean like this, when the transfer was done, it was taking the egg, progressed it a little bit, but it didn't fully take. And then the last one, the third transfer took, and her body knew exactly what it needed to do. So, but just for that, the third one, I felt like it was her body really getting the full idea of what we were trying to get done. And it was like, oh, I know what to do, and it just took off with it. So that's kind of how I felt about it. It was basically like a progression of telling her body, here, take this and do what you can do with it. Oh, you failed? Here, take another one, do a little better with it. Here's a third one. This is what we need you to do. And
stop saying it failed. Giving me a complex.
Well, it didn't take, so.
I tried my best, dude.
No, you did did spectacular. Look at her. But no. So, I mean, just with the way that everything went, I was happy. I was very excited. You know, just seeing a lot of, you know, again, she watches a lot of videos on different families and different groups. And just to see the success that we had, you know, I was very excited, very happy for it. So
I felt nothing.
Yeah.
I feel like it took me so long to be excited. Because I just kept waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah, she waited a long while. Me, I was dead set.
Like, yeah, it's going great today, but tomorrow this could all be gone. So I feel like I could not get excited about it.
I was dead set. I was like, yes, done.
You were very. I mean, I'm glad you didn't do backflips in the front, but.
Yeah, no, I probably would have injured myself. We would have been back in the hospital, been like, "Why are you back now? It ain't her finger." No, it's not her finger. It's my back. So, but yeah, do you have anything else you wanted to add? I think that's all the points that I had.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the transfer, as far as the whole IVF egg retrieval transfer, egg retrieval, hands down the worst part. The transfer is not that bad. It just feels kind of like you're going to start your period. You start getting kind of PMSy, but I mean, I'm a girl, so that happens. So the transfer's not horrible.
Yeah. It wasn't
probably bad. If you're going to do a transfer, you should probably listen to the medical professionals and follow that piece of paper they tell you what to do, and not just be like,
not go off on your own and do what you want.
This isn't going to work anyway, and I'm stressed.
Yeah.
I'm going to live my life and do what I want.
Do what I want. But no, so that's all we've got on this one. This is on the whole transfer process. The next video will be on the first trimester, what we had going on then.
My IVF shirt.
Yes. She's got her IVF shirt on.
Was it giving body shots?
Yes. But yeah, no, other than that, that's everything on the transfer process, what we went through, how we felt about it, what we liked, what we didn't like. So if you all have any kind of comments, questions, or just, you know, you would like to tell us about what you've been through, please throw it in the comments below. We love to hear from you all. Otherwise, we're going to sign off here. This is Chaos with Mrs. Chaos at ChaoticBeagle Entertainment. Hopefully you all have a happy, safe, and fun week. We'll see you in the next videos. But yes, next video we'll talk about the first trimester and all the goings-ons of that one. So other than that, you all have a happy one. We'll see you in the next video. Later.
And
yeah.